old Chael. Front page news. How do you like that? Front page news. MMA Junkie did an interview with Mikey last week, and one of the things that we discussed was Khamzat Chimaev and his conditioning. Now, I got to tell you, I found this whole thing interesting only because Khamzat Chimaev is the boogeyman of that division. He was the boogeyman of 170 pounds. He is the top 3 media darling of all time. McGregor, Rousey, Chimaev of all time, where the media was able to come in, love them, and build that person. And I'm only sharing for you this idea that Chimaev has a conditioning issue. I find to be interesting, but I won't dismiss it. There are many times when I, no matter the esteemed expert, do see something different than you guys see. And I got to learn from you. Like as time goes on, it turns out, whoa, they got this. How did I miss it? But I talked about this with Mikey. He thought it was front page news, and it's the concept that does Khamzat Chimaev get tired? Sure. Is it a problem? Never. And therein lies the difference. The thing that made, there's an expression, certainly you guys have heard it, fatigue makes cowards of us all. It just means no matter how tough and brave a guy is, if you exhaust him, he will want out. It's very true. Not a lot of sports where you can show it, though. Very hard to do in basketball. You just sub them in. Right, whistles blowing every 7 seconds in a football game. Did you know that on average, a play is 7 seconds, and you go right back to what? Rest. So it's a very hard thing in certain sports to do. Now, I see it all the time because I came through the sport of wrestling. This is Dan Gable 101. Beat him up, get him tired, worry about being a better wrestler than him third. The third thing down on the list is your wrestling understanding positions and holds. Get him tired. Start with that. He'll start falling down. Okay. Now that got brought over to MMA first by Randy Couture. But the first time that you guys ever saw it, it was actually Maurice Smith versus Mark Coleman. Mark Coleman reached in front of the world a level of exhaustion where it no longer had anything to do with experience or who was better. You guys remember this fight? So, with Chimaev, to compare it to Dan Gable, to compare it to wrestling, to compare it to Mark Coleman and Maurice Smith, to compare it to what Randy Couture did and pass that on to George St. Pierre, who passed that on to Khabib Nurmagomedov. This high-level conditioning and weaponization of pace. The guy that gets tired has got to quit. He's got to give up. He's got to start to become a coward. Right? It's not just get tired. Get tired is an expression. It opens the door to the conversation that is give up, lessen up, wilt. But it's not always the same thing. One of the most intimidating things about Fedor, it was one of the things that no matter who fought him or how much film you had, how good and experienced you were, Fedor genuinely enjoyed the feeling of being exhausted. That very exhaustion that Dan Gable, the wrestling, that the greats in our sport, St. Pierre's, Khabib's, that very thing that they do to their opponent that makes their opponent quit, Fedor liked. And you could see it in the way he fought. You could see where he was so exhausted it was hard to keep his arms up. But he never backed down. He never wilted. It was a very honorable, like amongst the boys in the locker room, they're sitting back and watching that. That was really the thing they were impressed with the most about Fedor. And I submit for you, isn't that the same thing that we're seeing from Chimaev? Chimaev was very tired in the Gilbert Burns fight, according to you guys. Would you find it interesting that in the third round, he threw 24 more punches than he did in the first round? Because the entire idea of he's getting tired is an expression that means he wilts, he gives up, and he backs off. And I just submit for you with Chimaev, that's not the case. Chimaev got very tired, according to you guys, in his fight with Kamaru Usman. That was 2-1. Would it surprise you to be reminded that Chimaev won rounds 1 and 3? He lost 2. So this whole idea that he's getting tired and that's the way to beat him, he came back and won the next round. Right? If he was tired in round 2, then we know how tired he was in round 3, but he came back and he won the round. And that is a Fedor-esque quality. Tom and Terry Brands at Iowa, who implement the strategy of go out there and get him tired, make pace and heart and grit a part of this equation. They will tell you that when you come off of a wrestling mat, you should be exhausted. I believe the exact expression Coach Brand said is you should feel like you've been hit by a train. But that's got nothing to do if that was the national finals or if that was a really hard opponent. He's saying the match should be really hard, meaning if you're better than the guy and you can go out and beat him comfortably by 4, 5, or 6, you shouldn't do it. You should beat him by 13, 14, and 15. You should use as much energy as you possibly have within that match so that when you come off, you are exhausted. And I agree. I've never looked at Chimaev and thought he gets tired, that's a bad thing. I've looked at his opponents and thought, why didn't they get as tired as he did? Whatever their 100% is, they didn't bring it. They're walking, they're breathing, they're doing their interview, they're too calm. Chimaev looks like he's going to collapse. Oh, by the way, he won the fight and he won the final round. So I only suggest for you that I don't know how much the idea of fatigue is fair. Keep that in mind. There's 2 sides to this coin. For right now, I'm exposing that. The very idea that got somebody the lead story.